Hey guys, welcome back to another RKOX episode with Jared and Kristi, obviously. Tonight we have a really special guest, Jared.
We have Gary Cucuchulio from Everything Imaginable and Unity Manifest podcast, and Gary's done so many things, including over 600 podcasts as Everything Imaginable. I've been a co-host with him for a few years. He's a great friend. He's had a brilliant life, and he has a lot of stuff to talk about. So it's going to be a really fun conversation tonight with him. You'll like him.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. Before we jump into that, though, let's kind of talk about a little bit about us. So we've got a ton of stuff coming up. We have a Belize tour coming up in May, our Archeo expedition, and then Peru in July, and then we have Egypt in September. All that information's on the website, and then we've also got more information that'll be coming in following days, including costs and an itinerary, a daily itinerary for the upcoming trip to Belize. That'll be in a downloadable PDF available online.
And people can inquire already, right? They already can.
Yeah. We've already had several inquiries and submissions, so we've got people really interested already. We're super excited about it. The Belize expedition in May is going to be 10 days. We'll spend one night in Belize City when we get in, and then when we leave, we'll spend the last night in Belize City, and then we'll go to Punta Gorda, and we'll do all kinds of amazing things. There's a cave tour, and then we'll see different. So RKOX has been working at a site there, and why don't you actually talk about RKOX?
Well, we've already worked on clearing a number of Mayan pyramids. We were down there in May, Kristi and I and our group RQX. We are working in a village that is also a place where the site is officially 350 acres, but it's really much larger. Most of Belize was Mayan ruins, and the mayor, I actually haven't told you, I spoke with today. Let him know that
I love getting last minute information, especially when we're live. It's great.
Yeah. I just said that we're, he's just looking forward to welcoming us down.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And there's been a change in power, right, on the council down there. Hasn't there been some sort of we have a new alcalde or something?
Yes, you're right. There's a new alcalde. Someone who's the alcalde is it's so weird because their favorite food is caldo. It's like a Thai. I call it a Thai curry, but it's a coconut-based, kind of spicy curried soup with chicken in it. But caldo and alcalde, I get confused.
I do too, but I'm gonna. Is it the soup or the judge? I have to interrupt you though. So when we were in Belize, we were invited to have dinner with one of the villagers' families, the guy who actually took us into the cave. We went back to his house after the cave tour, and his amazing wife had made this for us because it's like their national dish. It was amazing. And it was because it was so fresh. They literally, the sounds killed the chicken and then did the thing, like it just did. And it was, so everything was so fresh. But I remember we had some other people with us who were a little bit weird about
food.
Or like whole food. Bones just like floating and so that was fun. But God, it was so good. It was amazing.
Don't forget about the dessert drink. Was they make their own chocolate, so they were making chocolate drinks from cacao beans because they grow chocolate in trees in their yards. So that was pretty delicious too.
Yes.
Wasn't too sweet. It was pretty good. But
it was good.
And other than that, it was a quick hello, and the mayor's looking forward to us bringing people down and going to the cave that you were saying. And I don't know, do we give more detail on? I feel like when we start with the cave, we can scare people every time we start with the cave.
I know we shouldn't start with the cave. The cave isn't as scary as you think. I mean, this is definitely going to be a trip for explorers, though. I mean, it's not going to be, you're not going to be on a cruise ship, sipping martinis. You're going to be in the jungle hiking. So it's not obviously that, if you're looking for a luxury experience and you want to go, then this isn't it. You're going to sweat and hike, but you're going to hike to beautiful places and through beautiful scenes and experience just amazing, amazing sights that are breathtaking and spiritual, and you can feel the energy around you. You just like swimming all around you. You can feel it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it's not there. There is some really gorgeous places we're going to go for food that are, like we have our farm table restaurant, and our stays that we've been able to acquire are really, really, really amazing. So you're gonna be right on the ocean. It is going to be pretty magical. So you're not going to be in a tent. You're not going to be roughing it. It is during the day you're going to be roughing it, but there is going to be some pretty sweet entertainment and accommodations at night.
Hmm. Yes, definitely.
So
So we should probably talk about, when I say roughing it, I don't mean to scare people away. We're not going to be eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner.
yeah,
We actually have a chef there, named Gomer, and he's from Jamaica, originally, and I've never experienced food like his. And I actually spent like 16 years maybe in Louisiana, which is like the most flavorful state, I think, in the continental US, and arguably, and I mean, I would argue that
yeah,
because I now live in Oklahoma. No offense to Oklahomans, whatever. It's a little, I have to put a lot of pepper
yeah,
on everything, like, so anyways, this chef is on spot, and he has vegan options as well. So if you're vegan, you've got it made there, which I didn't.
yeah,
Everything I ordered off his menu is vegan, and it was amazing. I
yeah.
and I'm not a big person, and I would eat a plate the size of me.
It was like it looked like a big Thanksgiving Day plate where you put too much food and it's like this stack, and we all ate everything that he put in front of us. It was insane. It was so
Cleared
good.
it. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
So, do we want to bring our guest on?
I think it's time for Gary.
I
Everyone's been
think
waiting.
so. He's backstage. Let's bring him on.
All right, Gary Cucucciulio, Unity Podcast and everything imaginable. Here he is. Gary, thanks for being on.
Oh, hi. What are you guys doing there?
So sorry. Thank you for coming on tonight.
We were just hanging out and thought maybe you'd join us.
I was just sitting in front of my computer and boom.
And yeah, why am I here?
We just showed up.
Yeah. So, hey, I was just listening to you guys about Belize. Are you guys going to have like an ayahuasca shaman down there too?
Oh man, I don't know what, it
I know it'd be
varies by
great to have a
country.
shaman.
I agree. I won't argue that. I spent 3 weeks in Ecuador, at an ayahuasca retreat. So I wouldn't argue, to offer it if it's available.
Hmm.
So if they have a shot, I don't know, because it's different depending on what country you go to. So I went to Ecuador because in Ecuador, they actually have rules and guidelines for shamans to follow. In Peru, they don't. They can just kind of do whatever they want. So it's kind of like going to a licensed hairstylist or doctor, or an unlicensed doctor. That's not a hairstylist. Let's do doctor. Because it is that serious. So it's like going to a doctor who has, the credentials, and then going to one who doesn't. So I would be interested to see what the actual laws are for that in Belize.
Yeah.
Something to check into for sure. I'm going to make a note of it.
Oh, if I go, I'll
They're
bring
British
some
Commonwealth
mushrooms.
laws. Oh, sorry,
If
what was
you-
that?
I said if I come, I'll bring some mushrooms.
Yeah. Gary, what's your favorite? Gary, do you have a go-to psychedelic, or is it just like in all your experiences, good and bad? What was your worst and what's your best?
The best is angel dust.
What is
And
angel dust?
you
So maybe I'm a
you can't buy
baby.
it anymore. It's called the PCP.
Oh,
Is
okay,
the
yeah.
real name for it. Um, but yeah, that was always my favorite.
But what
It's
is it
definitely.
though? Like,
I
can
don't
you
know
compare
exactly
it?
what it is. I did it as a kid and I loved it. I bought like a half ounce of it at the beach one time and tripped for an entire summer, and I was good.
You mean from one
Was
ounce?
it? Is it like acid? It was like LSD. Is it MDMA? Like, is it
It's more than that. It's really strong.
more than
Yeah.
LSD?
Yeah, yeah,
Or
it's definitely stronger than acid.
Look, Gary, look, Christy, the what I've heard about it, I've heard of people when I was young, one of the things, the reason they would scare you off of it is because they would talk about people who had done it and then they stabbed themselves with screwdrivers.
I've heard horror stories too, which is always why I'm like, I've been, there have been, you know, I
You
shit,
know,
you know what I mean?
you,
Like
we
I
got,
was young once too, and so there have been times I was offered like acid, like a strip, and I was terrified. I thought I was
yeah,
going to lose my mind, so
yeah,
I never took it because I was terrified I was going to lose my mind. And then I hit my 30s, and I start listening to Ram Dass and Terrence McKenna and Alan
yeah,
Watts, and I'm just like, man, now how do I get my hands on it? I'm ready to. But
yeah.
ayahuasca, that one, I don't know that that's not the mother of all psychedelics. I don't.
Well, the main
Have
thing
you
Yeah.
about it's
had?
like DMT, right? I've never done ayahuasca.
Oh,
I'd love to try
yeah,
it.
you should. Uh, I recommend it. I feel like you are definitely
And
the
I don't
perfect
need
candidate for it.
and I don't need some licensed guy to do it. I can just I'll get the guy out the corner.
Well, so for me, the reason why I was so concerned was because I was traveling as a solo female
Mhm.
into the Andes by myself. I wasn't, and so when it came to being taken care of, it's set and setting,
Yeah.
so I wanted to make sure that I felt safe where I was.
Yeah.
And so just doing the research, I just felt safer. Now, knowing what I
Do
know,
you
I
think
would I would do it in Peru in a heartbeat.
do you think though, doing it safely maybe isn't the right way. Maybe you should do it when you're under like complete despair and distress and really confront the darkness.
That's
Oh,
terrifying because even when
Like
you're not, you're still with Aya, you don't know what she's going to show you. You don't know what you're going to see. You could be you could be your mind could be you might think you're at peace and then you realize you're not. And there is no, and it's not, so the journey is hours long,
Mhm.
which it's like not like any other psychedelic journey where it's a few hours and then it's over, or a normal hit of DMT maybe 5 to 10 minutes and then it's over. But with ayahuasca, it's a journey. It's even more than mushrooms. It's 12 to 16 plus hours. You're in it, hardcore in it, like no escaping it. There is no escape. Like there's
Hmm.
just, you're in it. So if you have a good experience, but
Mhm.
there's intelligence in the plants. Plant
Yeah, that's kind
medicine
of like what I'm thinking. Like, would it be healing? Like under the
isn't. Oh, it's
circumstances.
100%. So people at the retreat that I was at, it was half the retreat were doctors. They were all physicians
Mhm.
in different areas, that had, were either there to either understand the medicine. And there were a couple of doctors that actually left and ended up getting certifications when they came back to the States in psychedelic medicine, and psychedelic therapy. And because it's, there's ketamine clinics popping up everywhere. And there's just all of this research backing psychedelic therapy for anxiety, depression, PTSD. There were vets all the time doing ayahuasca and visiting ayahuasca retreats because it helps. I, and it's an experience that you really can't describe. I don't know what PCP is like, but I know what ayahuasca is like, and it's really hard to describe it.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
PCP is
I would recommend it.
PCP is not healing. It's not a friendly psychedelic.
Yeah, what happens to you when you do it? Like, where do you go?
It's very disassociative. You disassociate with yourself like almost completely. So everything sort of in a way becomes separate. It's really hard to describe because
Mm-hmm.
it's like you almost like don't exist at all.
Mm-hmm.
You and that's why like I think like people do a lot of crazy things when they're on it. But I think for some people like I was pretty good. I could kind of keep it together.
Yeah.
What what was like the worst one though?
The worst psychedelic.
Yeah, well, yeah, what was the worst experience you had?
Oh, I don't know. Driving home from a Black Sabbath concert on mushrooms.
Oh my gosh. So I heard that you were a roadie for like heavy metal.
No,
So
I was
I
never
am
a
just
roadie.
so curious to know how you end up going from heavy metal to writing a book about enlightenment. How do you go from heavy metal to how, how do you get there? Does it lead you there? Like I just because it
Well,
seems so hard. I don't know.
actually,
I
this
guess
is actually it's
psychedelics
a
are
good
hardcore
question.
too.
But
Okay.
I was never a roadie. I just play music because I enjoy it.
Oh,
um,
okay.
but yeah, like music though, it definitely had like a huge influence on this because when I was a kid growing up, I would listen to bands like Black Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult and stuff like that. And if you
Hmm.
really listen to their lyrics, they throw in tons of occult stuff into it. Um, so like that definitely like enhanced my interest in the occult. It made me read like some books that I wouldn't have normally read, like the Aleister Crowley stuff, and then all the Golden Dawn material, and then on it went. Madame Blavatsky, and and it's still going on in my life reading this stuff. So it did a lot of it did come from that.
I could see where um, being on the road and experiencing psychedelics might wake you up a little bit, regardless of what music you're listening to.
Yeah, yeah. But the music though, I don't know. M- everything's vibration, right? So music really
Hmm.
touches us in a way that no other thing does. It touches a human being really deeply, and it has a
Definitely.
profound effect on people. And I think like back in this 70s and early 80s when those bands were including a lot of occult type of topics in their music, I think it influenced a generation of people like me. Really, like a lot of the people that I've interviewed on my podcast, even are like like old Black Sabbath or Iron Maiden fans, stuff like that. So it's definitely not unusual,
Hmm.
and a lot of people have been influenced by it.
What led you to write the book? Like, what inspired the book?
At the time, I was sort of like an ordained lay Zen monk. Um, so um, and part of that was I had to, in order to complete the ordination thing or whatever it was called, they wanted me to write a thesis. So I had part of one of the ideas for a thesis was I was going to write a book, sort of like from an ego, like almost like an egocentric point of view of Zen
Hmm.
in a way, and that's kind of how I created the book. I'm
Hmm.
not too thrilled with the book now. Like there are like really nice pieces of book in the book, and sometimes I'll go back and I'll look at my book and I'm like, man, I wish I could actually really live some of this now because I could really use it, you know.
Yeah.
So, it's funny how the spiritual journey goes, where certain things come easy at certain times, and then
Hmm.
things change, and then they become difficult again, and then I guess like maybe later on they'll become easy again. It's just this never-ending sort of cycle.
You think it's the universe just testing us? You think it's What do you think the reason for that is? Just the roller coaster of life, the ups and the downs. Because I guess, in my opinion, you can't experience joy without sorrow, or happiness without sadness, or you can't. There's just certain things you can't experience without the duality. So if we don't have duality, then we can't experience life. I feel like we can't evolve we can't grow. I think that you have to have the downs in order to rise above, right?
Yeah. Duality is sort of like a nasty side effect, I think, of living in 3D reality.
Yeah,
You know,
that's it.
I'm not real thrilled with duality. I like unity better. That's why I need the unity vodka, unity manifest, not duality manifest.
Can we just one?
Or
Just be
I should have just named it F duality.
F duality. For real, but really, duality is. I know that there's a balance to everything, and duality is part of that balance. But it does complicate life. It 100%, especially when it comes to masculine and feminine energies, definitely is a complication. What do you think about? So I it's rumored that you have been trained to remote view.
Yes. Yeah. Remote viewing was. I'll tell you the whole story.
Okay, because I was going to ask, but I didn't want to pry.
Because Jared kind of knows the story. I had
I
interviewed
do.
a guy who had said that he was a part of the remove of Project Stargate, and that he had some of the original cassettes that Bob Monroe had made for the project, and he actually mailed the tapes to a friend of mine in I forget what state. His name was Damien, and he made digital copies of them, which I still have, you know. But I had the copies of these tapes. I didn't really know what to do with them, so I was poking around for somebody else who may have been in Project Stargate, and then found Bob Morehouse, or was it Dave Morehouse? I forget what his first name was, and he didn't normally do interviews, but I swear, like 5 minutes after I told him that I had got these tapes, boom, he me back. And he told me like his opinion was that they were actually not part of Project Stargate, because he wrote the manual for the Project Stargate for the remote viewing program. And he said, no, these aren't from that. He goes, these are actually MK Ultra tapes that they were disguising as Stargate. So they were,
Ah,
they're mixing them up. But anyway, he asked me if I would be interested in taking his remote viewing course. It was online. It was like during COVID, and I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I mean, like all they do is they give you like a 6-digit number or something like that. That's all you get. It's all the information you get. And then from there, you kind of go through these 7 different stages. You're drawing, you're writing, you're doing all this stuff. You get your brain down to like an alpha state. Oh, my dog.
it's
and
okay.
and I kid you not, like I was nailing like these targets, like it was unreal, And his explanation for it is, you talk a lot about omnipresence,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or everything existing at one time is sort of like
Mm-hmm.
information, and it was crazy. It was really crazy to do, and I can still do it. It's amazing. But what really amazes me about it, there's a couple of things that amaze me about it. One, it proves that psychic phenomena is real. Is and it also shows that the government knows that it's real and have
Mm-hmm.
utilized it. And if they were doing that in the 60s, I can only imagine what they're doing with psychic warfare now. I'm pretty
Yeah, I've never even heard that term before.
what psychic
Psychic
warfare.
warfare.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
I
Absolutely
mean,
terrifying.
it's a thing, I mean, and I'm pretty sure all these countries are using it, but I think it might be different now than what I think their remote viewing program, and that because I think the reason why the government doesn't keep a secret anymore because it's not an issue. But I think some of the stuff that they probably learned from the secret, I mean, from the remote viewing, I think they've probably have found like different portals to other dimensions, and other ways of communicating with extraterrestrial beings and all kinds of stuff that I think they know and can do things that are way beyond what we can even imagine.
So you're just doing my job for me, because the questions that I have, you're basically, I'm like, one of the questions is where are you on what's happening right now across the world with the UAP, UFO, drone phenomenon? Like,
Well, I
you
think
know,
it's always been happening, and that's one of the funny things too. Like people always talk about like disclosure with UFOs.
mhm,
I think it's been out since the 1950s that UFOs are real. I think
right.
it's people's ability to accept it. And then I think the harder thing to accept really is that I think some of them are physical, they come from other planets. I think some of them might be stationed here. And I also think probably a good amount of them are coming in through other dimensions.
You think, how?
How? How can they
Yeah. Like,
not? Like how can they not?
how
I
can,
mean, I mean, quantum physics has proven
Yeah.
like if you read like the science journals that are out now, the information that they're getting from these colliders and shit, they're proving that there's other dimensions. They can do it like physically, but they also know that there's a consciousness connection also with this. Our
so what is
our
how do you
consciousness
connect
is
all of those?
how. Oh,
Yeah. How do you
entanglement.
connect that?
Entanglement. Like with the remote viewing thing, there's all different models that we can use to explain these things.
Mhm,
Like one model that I like to use is that, it's sort of like the holographic universe model. Everything is just information.
mhm.
So whatever information we focus on is the reality that becomes real.
Right.
And by doing that, by making those choices, creates alternate realities.
Right.
So that could be one way of looking at it. Another one is the timeline way, where you make a decision and timeline splits and it goes off. Um,
Or
there's time.
do you feel like you can quantumly jump into different timelines with intention
I cannot do it, but I believe definitely there's people out that do it.
that
Yes,
can? Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No,
So
I
have
just
you seen the movie Jumper?
I think a long time ago.
So maybe this movie is 10 or 15 years old. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's somewhere, it's within the last probably decade, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But it is about this kid who realizes that he can jump timeline, like jump into different, no, wait, is it timelines? That's a different movie. Shit, I'm getting all confused. Jumper is the one where he's he's teleporting. That's what he's doing in Jumper. They're teleporting. Okay, so which one is the psychic one? Where it'll come to me later. I'll let it come to me later.
But it's funny though. It's like another thing though. I think the government now doesn't even care if people know about
They
it.
I
don't
don't
care
think they
what.
do
I
either.
don't
They
think
just
they
keep
care.
putting
Like,
stuff out there.
so that even makes me think like, all right, they've released that UAPs are real. They are letting people know that other dimensions are real. I wonder what it is that they're not letting us know.
But they don't do it in the media, though. It's like they're not doing it. The media is not covering the way it should. Like they're releasing documents, so it's like people like us who are interested in this. It kind of spreads like among the inner crowd.
But I think again that curve goes back to people's inability to accept reality for what it
You're
really
right.
is. People
You're
want
right.
people want reality to be solid like this bottle.
Yeah,
And it's not. It's more like fluid that's inside the bottle.
exactly.
You know,
That's a hard concept for a human brain to wrap their mind around, though. It
it's
took me a long
terrifying.
time. It is terrifying because at that point, if you accept certain things about reality, the one that the three of us agree that we live in, right? So let's just say we're all in the same, we're in agreement that we're all in the same reality. But for a lot of people, if they were to perceive reality the way that we do, it would just completely shatter just their social constructs, just completely shatter.
It kind of has with me.
Yeah.
I think it does with a lot of people. A lot of people that I've interviewed that have awakenings or Kundalini experiences or any type of breakthrough of perception
Mm-hmm.
into I don't know what you call it, but
Unplugging from the matrix.
sort
We
of
can,
like that. It's like you kind
yeah.
of like step out of this reality and you kind of see things in more of a whole view, or like a whole view, not from the wholest view, but whole more than what we're able to perceive now within our physical body with our eyes.
So we've got comments over here. We have Rex from the Leak Project. Okay, never mind. He said
He
don't
doesn't
tell.
know what reality is. I don't know what it is either. That's the thing. I really don't know. I think if anybody does say they know, they're lying.
I agree. Well, you know what? That my last question that I wrote down that I wanted to ask you today was basically, how do you connect all of the things? Ancient human history, consciousness, reality, the being awake and being asleep, and just the experience of waking up and then that happening to you, because when you do wake up, that's what happens. All of the narratives that you have grown up with, all of the narratives that you have believed in are gone. And then you have to refigure yourself out, and you have to decide for yourself, because that's what basically we're born into, whatever culture, family, tradition, belief system we're born into. And then we're programmed into that, whether, whatever, it doesn't, if your parents are Christian or Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, we're born into that, and that beliefs, reading that doctrine, being raised in that way. And we don't ask any questions, because we're told if we ask questions, we're going to hell. So
Yeah.
you can't be a blasphemist, so we're not going to ask any questions. We're not going to doubt our faith, and then once you start realizing that, because I'm a former Christian, a current spiritualist, it's weird to even say that I'm a former Christian. That's weird. But so I am a spiritualist at this point. And so here we are live. Everybody knows now.
You know what? That's true. One thing, well, thanks for everyone for joining us, Rex, Retro Roman Doomsday and Simulation Channel, and among others. But we are time in. This is our live Wednesday nights, which we do on arqx.com. I apologize anybody who tried to tune in. I corrected it. It looks like it launched. I was able to fix our problem on Wix, and we do have our live stream going on arqx.com, but we are on Aliens also right now. Our podcast tonight, we're going to go about another hour. We're going about 90 minutes talking to Gary from Everything Imaginable and Unity Manifest podcast, and my good friend and former, I am his co-host on some of Everything Imaginable, and here he is now, a guest on RQX.com, and we are talking with him, and we are also, of course, talking about our upcoming expeditions to Belize, which is coming up at the end of May, going into June. You can sign up and look for that on RQX.com. We're also going to Peru and Egypt. I don't know, Kristi, what else do I got?
So the Belize trip will be 10 days. We'll do lots of cool things. We'll go to Mayan ruins. There's a cave tour. There will be daily options for yoga, breathwork, meditation. Yeah. I'm actually, I think I'm going to have a personal trainer there. So if she joins the crew, then she can do all the things.
Yeah.
I think she's all the time, like, working out. I don't know what doing what personal trainers do, but we'll see. So we'll see what happens. There's going to be lots of wonderful food. I don't know. I guess we covered all this before we had the technical issue on the website. So,
but hey, you know what? But we're doing a 90-minute show for everyone who's listening, and we've covered psychedelics. Well, we've covered some
Lots of psychedelics.
psycho psychonauts. We've covered a few things since we are here with Christy and Gary.
I
And
don't know
Gary is
why anybody would ever think that I am. I even have behind me here. This is so. This is a little baby mushroom, and this right here is so my son has one just like this, and this is our good luck mushroom. So when he has tests or like challenges or something he needs to
Mhm.
overcome, then we make our promise and our click in the mornings and put them in our pockets, and then we're together all day. I'm with him, so
yeah.
we use mushroom power to do that.
Well, we've covered psychedelics and really I feel like Gary, you have a lot of stories over time, but of all the people you've interviewed, I mean, I want to circle back on remote viewing
Uh,
because I don't think I want you to tell Christy, well, I want you to tell everybody about what it was like because you were in a group that you were doing it
mhm.
with.
Yeah,
You
yeah, it
want
was
to
a
talk
group.
a little bit about what you?
It was a group of about 20 people. We all had the same targets, and one of the cool things about doing remote viewing in a group is you can collaborate the data. You
Yeah,
can take when you have like a bunch of people doing it, you can take everybody's what the information that they've gathered, and then pull out all the stuff that people had the same. And then you develop the target even further that way, make it even more accurate. As an individual, when you're doing it, you don't know how much of the target you're getting, and you also don't know what perspective you're viewing a target from. Those are some of the random things that could happen in in a remote viewing situation. Like one of the targets that we did was the Hindenburg, because this remote viewing thing, like it doesn't worry about space and time. So and like and some people were picking up like the fire from the blimp. Other people were picking up panic from the people on the ground. Other people would pick up um maybe like a floating sensation. So everybody would pick up different parts of the target, and when you put it all together, then you finally get it,
But
what the
how did
target
they
is.
know if you're only given a number? How do they
Because
know? How can they associate that number with this target?
you because your mind is connected to everything.
hmm.
Your like
Yeah,
it's entanglement. Like our
Mm-hmm.
mind is not really our mind. Our mind is I don't know what it is, but it acts as a receiver. It acts as a sender, and I think it also acts as a memory, a place for our physical memories. So since it acts also as a sender and receiver of information, it's able to just go out, grab whatever information it wants, and return it to you. Now, the problem that they have is um, how each person interprets the information once it enters the mind. Because the information will come into your brain in its purest form. But unfortunately, for me to write it down or say it or something like that requires a cognitive function on my part. And my cognitive function, normally you're going to rely on information that I already know and I'm familiar with. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's information that I don't already know and don't not familiar with, that's where things kind of go funny. And it's the same thing with psychics too. That's like why a good psychic is probably going to be good about 70% accuracy is what a good
mm,
accurate is. And it's because of this over this what this they call it in remote viewing analytical overlay. So once the information hits your brain and you start thinking about it, then you start putting your own ideas into it.
So would they have to get it out of you immediately before
Yeah,
you start
you
integrating
kind
your
of have
own perception?
you have to be super relaxed. You have to not really be thinking much and just do it,
Huh.
without much thought. Because when you start thinking about it, then you start like, oh, is this right? Is that wrong? Should I do this? Should I do that? And it gets all messed up. But if you can relax and not get that analytical overlay, the more accurate you will be.
mm,
But the information itself is always out there. Everything that has ever happened and
huh,
ever will happen, everything that has existed and ever will exist already exists in. I like the term the Akashic records. That's my favorite. He didn't use that term, but that's the term I like to use, and that's what the Akashic records really is. You know, it
Isn't
is
that boot? Isn't that that's Buddhist, right? Isn't that
Hindu.
the Hindu? I'm sorry, Hindu. Yeah. So how do you, if you were given specific numbers for a target to do this thing in remote view, have you done this practice outside of the group, outside of that experience? Have you tried to practice this out just on your own?
Not really, no. Because I mean, me and Jared were talking about doing it one time with the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For the
for the
Kincaid
Kincaid Cave.
Cave. You know, because it would be better.
Yeah.
It's better, I think, to do it with other people. You know, that way you can
Hmm.
check it. Like if I'm doing it by myself, one, I know what the target is because I'm giving myself the target, right? So that's not going to work. So you kind of need more than one person to do it.
Hmm.
What's the minimum that where you like have at least some effective? Yeah,
I would say three.
three.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we are. You
Here
know,
we are.
we could
We're all
do
right
it
here.
and compare data.
That
Can
would
we
be
live remote
interesting.
view?
I would love
Like
to test it.
have three viewers and have one person, a fourth person, who does the target and doesn't do the viewing. You know, because
I
it's
bet
not
we could
because
recruit
if
somebody.
you chose the target and you're viewing it, you're kind of cheating because you already know what the target is.
Right.
Oh,
So you have to
interesting.
we would have to have a
It's a
fourth person
blind
to
target.
choose the target, and then we would
Yes.
remote view into that target.
Yeah, they would choose the target, assign it a number, and they would give us the number, and then we would remote view that number.
But how do they know the number?
Well, they would create the number. Whoever creates the target creates the number.
How do they create the number though? Like it just
You just
randomly
make one up.
populates?
You
Just make a number up.
You focus on the target and you write down a number. And then automatically the consciousness transfers over to the number somehow.
That's crazy. But I understand. It's not though.
Or the number sort of becomes like a phone number. You can look at it as like a phone number. You dial the phone number and it takes you to the target. There's different ways of looking at it.
Gary, when you were learning how to do it, what was your instructor? What kind of stories did he tell you guys?
He didn't tell many stories at all. He was talked about
Really?
the information, and he was very focused on bringing people around to the point that everything is information, everything is omnipresent. We're omnipresent, and he the last target he gave, he didn't tell us what it was, and when I did it, I couldn't really draw much. I didn't write much, but I had just fell apart and started crying. I just melted down. I said, I just can't do it, you know? And, but then I found out what the target was, and the target was myself. And at that time, I was going through a divorce, like a really painful divorce. So it's there. Like everything that we're experiencing is nothing but information. Like I think what we're experiencing is like if you take a box and fill it with a bunch of information, the box becomes the container. So the box is what is holding our reality, right? So it's the container. And then you infuse inside that container, you fill it with all the information that you want for people to experience inside the container. And then you take that container and you infuse consciousness into it. And then that consciousness is now inside this box filled with information. And your consciousness can just pick and choose what information it wants to focus on. And I think that's kind of how we construct our reality in a simple way that could explain it without all the sacred geometry and other things that seem to be.
I think that's a great explanation. I think that's a great explanation. The closest thing I've been able to come up with what we're living in is a holographic experience. And just like you said, nothing is solid. And when I think about creating my own reality, I just envision myself, because that was a really hard concept for me to understand when I started waking up, which started in 2012, 13, 14, and then kind of plateaued in 19, 20, and then 2023, I went to Ecuador and went to a retreat and blew my mind wide open. I've always been open-minded. You know, I've always had, I wasn't raised in church. So I wasn't indoctrinated. I don't have any sort of association, like a deep association with any sort of religion. And so that helped, for me to sort of unplug and awaken. But the idea of creating your own reality was something that was really hard for me in the beginning of waking up to wrap my mind around. Here we are 10 years later, and I completely understand it. It is not confusing to me at all. But the way that you picture it being in a box, I just picture myself reaching up into the ether and pulling down what I want, basically. So I just focus on what I want, and I know it's floating up there in the ether, and I can just grab it down with my mind and pull it into me and make it my reality.
Yeah, it's the same thing, because like you're inside you're that consciousness that's inside the box. So if your consciousness inside a box, you're not going to know you're inside a box. You're just going to feel like you're surrounded by it. Everything.
Yeah.
It's your environment.
When I think that's kind of what this 3D experience is, so there have been a lot actually, we're at 46 minutes. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we will be right back.
Well, we are live. So I could, you want me to pause? Because
you can, or you guys can.
We're just going to chat, Gary. We're going to chat, Gary.
So what do you think, Jared, of this weird explanations for stuff?
Well, you and I for everyone listening, you and I have talked on everything imaginable. We have multiple episodes that we've definitely covered consciousness, and we've definitely, man, how many times have we talked about this alone? Just we've kicked this one around, between, is it matrixy, is it holographic, is it is it a complete construct? Are we completely not real? I mean, obviously, if we weren't, we don't know. We think we are. We feel real. So it's one hell of a thing that we're physically, we're clearly here. I mean, no matter what form we're in, we're here. So
but
in the
here? How do I know you're really here, though? Like when you're not around, right? I don't know if you're really around. I only know you when I talk to you or see you. So you could easily be a figment of my own imagination.
So early on, when I got fascinated with quantum mechanics and was reading all about Schrodinger, and the whole, basically the whole idea of, is a cat dead or alive? If a tree falls in a forest, if no one's there to hear it, do we hear it? So we got this basic fundamental quantum question, and is it possible? Is it there? And we now know from all the experiments that on a quantum level, it freaked Schrodinger out. It's difficult. I've been trying to find the quote for Kristi, but Schrodinger's like, "I'm sorry I had anything to do with it. I'm like, based on the observable moments of subatomic particles, the way they reacted to consciousness, the way they reacted to uh, what they were supposed to do versus what you wanted them to do." Schrodinger was like, "I'm sorry I had anything to do with this," and because they wanted it to all work in a certain order. So my point about the observation of the particles is that the intent behind the experiments seemed to affect the outcome of what should be, not that our consciousness should not cause a situation with with these quantum particles, or these, and again, the cult of bumping particles, or is it everything waves and frequencies? Is it all liquid? Is it all ether, like Tesla described? So we're talking about, if we can affect the subatomic world with our mind, you got to wonder, well, how much of what we observe, like you said, when you see me, if we don't, is a tree going to make a noise if no one's there to observe it? Or is the cat in the box dead or alive? I don't think that we have a um, we don't have an option, right? So it's not a belief that whether or not you and I are individually here or not, the reality is that these subatomic particles that are reacting to ideas and consciousness, but they're the duality of them, like a single quantum particle showing up somewhere else at the same time. There's clearly something about the state of each of these subatomic, these quantum states, that prove that whether you think of something or not, and I think of something or not, there's something simultaneously happening in this subatomic world, right? So I'm making a very elementary argument about the fact that whether the tree falls in the forest and whether you call me or not, and whether or not you and I or Kristi really exist in or out of the bathroom, the reality is that,
Like for
How
that
do you know that's
moment,
where I went?
she didn't exist. She popped out of
yeah,
existence.
yeah, for all we know, she
I
went to
wasn't there.
Mars.
I
She went,
wasn't even here.
yeah, forget the bathroom. She was at Mars, and she came back. And did she come back? Did she leave? We don't
I don't
know.
understand. At the end of the day, guys, I don't understand. This is my first podcast I've ever done. Not the first one I've ever done, but the first podcast I've ever co-hosted. I don't understand how people just go hours without going to the restroom. Like,
You
that's
get used
crazy
to
to
it.
me. I just drink
Yeah.
so much water. I can't.
Or
I
you only,
can't.
I only keep like a half a bottle of water, so I don't
I have
overdrink.
two behind me. Like,
Yeah, see,
just in case.
you got to cut
No,
back.
you
Cut back
can't. You
on
can't.
water.
You can't. No,
It's
it's
that, or
like
you
I
have to
got
wear.
that much left. That's it.
It's like when I travel. When I travel, I don't drink a lot of water because I don't want to have to go on the plane,
Every
So I don't.
podcast. But you know what? If my choice is to get Irish whiskey, get some Irish cream or not, I would rather have the cream, and we'll just take our break. So for everyone in the future, RQX, our live shows will include pauses for some of us because we are not going to stop bringing you the party, intellectual party,
The intellectual party.
The party.
but we are
Party
on occasion.
for nerds. I feel like
That
this
I-
is what is the party for nerds.
Hey, yeah,
Let's talk more about quantum physics.
yeah. Well, so Gary's point, while you were gone, Gary and I have done a bunch of shows, and he and I have talked a lot about, is it a matrix? Is it some sort of construct? What is reality? And we've gone back and forth on this, and yeah, so basic quantum mechanics, right? If a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? If it's not observed, and then fast forward, I got into the part where they start observing quantum particles, and the actual observation of the particles changed the outcome, and they're like, yeah, how the hell did it? So
That's the double slit experiment.
right. So the argument, here we go. Yeah, why not? There we go. Getting tactical. But, so there is this. I think then the argument. What I was trying to do is make a circular argument that we can't all be individuals existing in our own thing, independent of everyone. There has to be a collective tether to everyone because obviously we're all individuals, right? But at the same time, we're not. We're not. If it was just our own, then there wouldn't be, I think, the possibility. Each one of us can affect that independent layer. So either we're downloading through remote viewing collectively, like you said, Gary. Some people are doing feelings, some people are doing location, some people have location, but the reality is that if there wasn't more than one person, we wouldn't individually have those collectively or individually have those experiences. They would all be the same, or it would be. It's not like you have just a bunch of robots who had all those different experiences and you had the one real one. You know,
Yes.
does that make sense?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
That's
I
where we left.
think that being part of what you experience when you take psychedelics is, Gary, like you said, that separateness.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that on Aya when Aya separates you from yourself, and 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 so once you have that experience, I feel like you're able to sort of look at humanity as a whole differently. Once you I felt, for me personally, I felt like once I was separate from myself, when I came home, I just had this deep understanding of human nature, of the human condition, that we have ancestral trauma and we have childhood trauma and we have, trauma that's been passed on through, our DNA, just, and we've got all of these things and we have to heal from it. And we're born without a memory of where we came from or what we're doing here, or what the point is. And we're born into these social constructs, and we're force fed these narratives. And then we're told not to ask questions. And then we read, and this is what I feel like everybody refers to as a midlife crisis. It's not a midlife crisis. It's just people waking up. I think it's just people going, holy shit, what is happening around me? Like, this isn't normal, And so I think that's part of the experience as a whole when you separate yourself from yourself, if that makes any sense.
Do you
Once
think
you're
though, Kristi,
separate, go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
no, Kristi, do you think that, I wish it was true. Like part of me, my optimistic side goes, yeah, people going through midlife crisis are trying to wake up, and I'm like, that's such a happy thought. And then the cynic in me, or the realist goes, no, the guy who was the bowling ball manager now just wants to be the beer bartender manager instead.
Yeah, I know, but what if that's the case? Like, what if that is what he, like, who are we to judge? Just like when we had that conversation a couple weeks ago,
Yeah, yeah.
someone
Look,
else's
so
life experience.
yeah. I'm not saying that everybody has to be some guru sitting on a mountain. I don't think that's true at all. But to
You
connect,
know.
yeah, to connect, yeah. So I think some people have a midlife goal. I think some people have a midlife 3D crisis, to move into another 3D crisis, or to a 3D.
I agree with that. No, I
Yeah,
agree. I
I'm a
agree that some
master at
people have
that.
a
What was
we
that,
don't want to
Carrie?
move from 3D to 3D. We just want to move from 3D to 5D. let's
Yeah,
let's go
I
Yeah,
there.
moved from one 3D crisis to another 3D crisis.
That's
One,
really common.
but
So
one of the things
just
that I wanted to bring up too is like when we talk about like being separate from yourselves and stuff.
mhm,
I had like
mhm,
a near death experience where I was
hmm
dead for about 20 minutes, and I was completely separated from myself, but like from my ego. Like there was no suffering, there was no pain, there was none of that. It was complete 100% peace. But
mhm,
I was aware. Like I was
mm,
aware, like I had this awareness. And like when it comes to like NDDs, NDEs, and these kind of experiences, a lot of people will talk about, some of the visuals and sounds and conversations and maybe journeys that they have during those experiences. For me, though, it was none of that. It was pure. It was 100% pure. And there was no fear, no nothing. And I will say, waking up out of that, I was never the same again, ever. And not
mhm,
necessarily always in a positive way.
mhm,
You know, when you connect to that and then come back here,
mhm.
this is disturbing.
It's horrible.
This is disturbing. And back there, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's peace. It's oneness. It's wholeness. You know, and you know, and like one of my biggest things that I kind of promote on the podcast, and one of the ones I changed the name too, is because of like all these experiences from the remote viewing, from the near death experience, and from all these other things that I've tried, paranormal investigations and whatever. Is that I really do feel that we are the universe experiencing itself. So when
Mm-hmm.
they have that near death experience, it kind of like flip back over to being the universe again. And all of a
But
sudden,
do you know how hard that is, though, Gary, for people to comprehend? Can you try to simplify that or break that down into terms that more people can understand? When you say we are the universe experiencing itself.
okay, yeah, it's actually an easy one to explain. There's one dreamer, and we're all the characters in that dream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't really think of an easier way.
That's the best. That's the easiest way
Or
I've ever
also,
heard it described.
or if you look at it like a fiber optic light, you know, like those fiber optic lights where the little strands fly out and have like little lights at the end, and then lights coming through. It's all one light, but it's traveling through all these different fibers.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, I
All
like
right.
that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
So
that's
so
not
so
bad.
so when I'm alive, I'm just this little light inside the fiber, you know, or a character in a dream. And when I'm dead, you're actually the light inside the lamp or the dreamer who's dreaming the dream.
So do you feel like do you believe that there are layers to consciousness
Oh
to
yeah, yes.
so reincarnation?
I think the stuff that I know is just the surface, or what I think I know, really, because I don't truly know if I'm right or wrong about this stuff. I can't
Mm-hmm.
prove it, you know. And I also change my mind sometimes too. When new information comes around, I have to change my mind.
Right. Of course. Of
Yeah, but how
course.
often do you change your mind because you want to? I mean, Gary, how often do you change your mind?
Not that often.
Yeah. So basically, do you feel like you are currently existing in the 3D or the 5D or somewhere in between?
But I think I'm definitely living in 3D reality because there's so much duality and pain and suffering and
Mm-hmm.
challenges, and you know, um, but 5D consciousness is accessible for people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of people call it, like, you know, words like ascension or things like that, awakening, or whatever. You know, I kind of think of it more as connectedness, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like we're like things are sort of reconnecting back together into the whole,
Yes.
you know, like it's coagulating.
Yes. I like coagulating. I
I
like
think I said
that.
that right. Did I say that
It's
right?
so sticky.
Yeah, no. I
That's
like
cool.
it. It is sticky and I like it because I feel like that's what kind of happens. But I don't know if it's super sticky because I feel like I feel like, Gary, you made a point earlier that I'd like to bring up again. You said you were talking about, I'm not always like, we don't always stay on the path. We don't always stay the course.
Right.
Just because we wake up, just because we have an understanding of reality, or the human condition doesn't make us perfect or flawless or, ascension masters. We're not just walking around the planet passing out peace, love, and happiness.
Mhm.
We have bad days too,
Yeah.
and I think that's something that should be acknowledged among people who are experiencing this and are waking up and slip back in, to your old, patterns of behavior and actions. That doesn't mean that you've necessarily gone back to sleep. It just you have to give yourself
Well, we
grace
still have
and understand that
we
you
still
you,
have
you get pulled
bodies.
back in.
Still have
Yeah,
this.
we're stuck in these
And I
bodies.
think one of the things about this is the higher you go, the lower you fall. You
Yes.
know?
Namaste.
And I think like me and Jared were talking a little bit earlier. Like I think that's true also when it comes to manifesting sometimes too. You know,
Yes. Yeah. No, I
Can
would agree with that.
like I
Hey
think
Gary,
like
can
a
you get
middle way is probably easier. I haven't
I can
mastered
do
that
that.
yet.
Hey Gary, can you get closer to your mic?
Yes.
All
Oh,
right.
Is that
good
better?
gosh.
Yeah, well,
How's the mic?
we got who knows? That's what we're going off of.
All right.
But
Well, I
no,
mean, my
no.
mixer's showing it pretty loud.
Yeah, you know what? I can hear you fine in the monitor, and then
I don't
I
know.
feel like StreamYard's lying to us. Like
Well,
we all
this
sound
isn't
good.
the first time we've had this issue. Because I
Yeah.
felt
So
like when we interviewed Aaron, we interviewed a crystal healer, Aaron Healer. God, I sound so Texan sometimes. And I heard it just then. I heard it. Don't
you just,
pretend you didn't. You did. You heard it. Everybody
I
is
heard it.
listening heard it.
I heard it too.
It
you know what?
happened. We don't have to deny it. I don't like to ignore the elephants in the room. Let's
No,
just
but
point
this
it
is an
out and
elephant.
move on.
Hey, you know what? First off, it's not an elephant. It's a beautiful unicorn with wings.
Or a forest fairy.
With wings.
Yeah, I have
So
wings.
now we can move on. Now we got it.
Anyways, where were we? I don't remember.
What,
Remote
Gary?
viewing.
No, we had just covered.
I
No, we're talking about 5D reality and
Right.
I was talking about like it seems like sometimes like the higher we go, the harder the lower we fall. And that's also like another reason too why I think reconnecting is sort of a better way of maybe
So what?
seeing
How do you
expression.
reconnect? When you reconnect, how do you reconnect?
I haven't figured that out yet.
Okay.
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
reconnect,
Psychedelics.
Jared?
How do I what?
Reconnect.
For
And
me,
breath work. I'm sorry, Jared, to interrupt. And breath work. Psychedelics and breath work. And before you speak, I just want to say that psychedelics are not for everybody. Not everybody is in a space where they can handle psychedelics. And so if this is not something we're promoting or recommending for anyone, that's a personal choice and a calling almost. So this isn't something we're promoting. Psychedelics and breath work. So when I was in Ecuador, Gary, I sat down with a breath work instructor from Germany who I could barely understand, but he led me through my very first breath work session. And it was so profound that I ended just as profound as the plant medicine. I ended up a month later, I went to Peru to learn how to facilitate breath work, to teach other people how to breathe. And so I would be lying if I just put it all on psychedelics. It's not. It's a practice of a mixture of modalities of meditation, yoga, breath work, and the occasional psychedelic journey.
How does the breath work? Like, can you just hold your breath till you pass out and have a spiritual experience?
No, hyperfixation. No, you're not supposed to hyperventilate.
Don't do that.
No, don't do that.
I would recommend it.
I don't know. We used to do that when I was a kid.
I know.
We would do that weird breathing thing, and you push up on your chest, and you
on the wall.
Yes.
I have a scar on my back from that. Are you serious? You did that too? So did I. That was insane. That was so crazy. So I am going to admit this. That God, if my parents are listening right now, here you go. This is me. So
what were you doing?
I remember when I was in high school, there was this kid. I can't even remember what his name was. Gavin. I think it was Gavin. And his parents owned a laundromat on the other side of town. And on the weekends, he would throw these badass raves. And he would have a DJ. I mean, he came from a wealthy Asian family. I don't know. And they own laundromats everywhere. I have no idea. But I just know that there was this warehouse in the back of a laundromat that I ended up in every once in a while on the weekends on ecstasy. And so we did that thing. We did you lean over on your knees, then you breathe deep, long breath, just like breath work. And then you breathe fast for like 10 breaths. And then they throw you up against the wall and asphyxiate you. And then you pass out and you have this otherworldly experience for like 10 seconds. That feels like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
How do we all do that? How do we all do that?
I don't know how I survived my teenagehood, honestly. Like, I don't know. My teenage years were so wild. I just lived through a lot of escapism. I don't know how I survived. I just kept doing it. And
no, but all of us did that same thing. It's like, how does every kid everywhere have a group of friends and everybody knows how to do exactly that because we did the same thing too here.
That's it.
It is
So
weird because there was no internet back then.
no, but
That's
we all
right.
knew. But we all knew. How did
Yeah.
we all know? How did each of the grades, how do we know to do that? How does everyone know? How is there a whole circuit, despite the internet and everything else? How is there a whole circuit of things that you learn to do, whether it's in elementary school or junior high or college or high school, that has nothing to do with the internet? But it's this kind of stuff.
It's innate. I think it's innate. I think it's something that is part of what we're born with. I think
Just
we're
100%.
born. I think it's just forgotten information, just like
Yeah.
we have stored information in our DNA that is passed down from generation to generation, century to century, or whatever. And who knows when I reincarnated? Maybe I just reincarnated. Maybe I was Cleopatra. I don't know. So maybe I have like her information in me. Who knows?
Could be
But
Queen Sheba.
Plus, like I was saying earlier too, like all information exists at the same time.
right.
There's not necessarily such a thing as
Separation.
time.
Yeah.
Time's sort of an illusion. Even reincarnation, in a way, is an illusion because we're living
Ooh.
all these things at one time. There
Yeah.
is no time.
It's not linear.
Time is definitely not necessarily a human construct, but definitely a 3D construct.
Ooh. So that's a hard thing too for people to wrap their mind around when you're born watching the clock. Like this is how the day is structured. It's just like this, and everything depends on the clock. And you spend your days as, through your childhood looking at the clock, waiting for the bell to ring, so you can either move to the next class or school is over and you get to go home, and for me, I had a really structured childhood. So it was, I knew what time everything was going to happen. So to think outside of time it's hard to wrap your mind around. It's hard. And this is what I think we have to do as part of who we are is help plant the seeds for people. So they kind of start to understand some of these concepts that are really, really difficult to understand. And not everybody, I don't think everybody has the capacity to understand them. But I think that, when you take time out of the equation and you understand that it's not linear, Gary, how would you explain that to someone? How would you explain time is not linear?
That's an easy one here.
Okay. I love that easy.
I can pitch my book while explaining this one. Enlightenment guaranteed. So you can explain time this way. Here's time. Everything's the book. The book is already written, but I can only read one page, one word, one sentence at a time. So that's where the time comes from. The information is already present in the book, but I can only consume it in a linear fashion. So the book is beyond space and time. All these words and everything are sort of beyond space and time. They're always present, but they're only present to me in a linear way because my mind is limited in how I can comprehend it. Like if my mind was more omnipresent, then maybe I could just put my hand on the book and just boom, the information downloads into the brain.
Do you think that's possible currently? Do you think that's possible in the future?
Not for me, but I'm sure there's people that can do it.
Currently?
Yes, absolutely.
You believe that? You believe there are people currently
I could find somebody that can do it.
Please do. Please find somebody.
I'm sure I can find one of my guests who are able to do something like that or similar to it.
I would absolutely love to interview whoever that is, because that is I feel like there's so much human potential that we have not unlocked. And it's just like Jared was kind of talking about how did we know how to do this back before there was internet and we were teenagers and, we didn't know. Oh yeah, there's are you promoting his book too?
Another book.
Oh my God.
Boom.
Yeah. It's so
All
funny.
the information is there.
Yeah, everything you need to know is actually in this book.
The new one is going to come out. Yeah, well, everything, the problem is that the problem, the book is really 20 books, and really it's a high overview of all the rabbit holes. If you want to spend thousands of hours to develop yourself or to develop your understanding, not just what you know, but the book is really all the rabbit holes, from consciousness and water and memory and the Wim Hof and the Stieg Severinsen and the how do we reactivate all these things and nuclear cold fusion in the human cellular system to ancient megalithic giant ruins and terra prate all over the earth, and how does it all connect together? Like really, it's really kind of a big overview of. And I'm not trying to do this as a promotion because the new one's not out, but yeah, and I added just for everyone it's already 374 pages, and I added 7,000 words to it when I rewrote it. And so I think Kristi and I have been talking, and I've been actually thinking about actually putting I'm thinking about going back through it again, Gary. So bang my head on the wall before we put it out. I want it to be in a hardcover this time, and there's a cool new cover. But God, it's really a how-to because nothing can be explained in just one book. I think you got to practice. You have to work at it
I
yourself.
think integration is the key to everything.
Yeah.
Anything that you learn, you have to integrate. If you're not integrating, it just goes out. You're not retaining it.
Yeah, or there's people who go at it. This one I feel for you because I've been there. It's like you want to do something new, you're open to it, and you start on it. But it's what you said about like some people seem to wake up and go back to sleep. I think what it is some people can have some good intentions, like working out. I got to go 3 days a week or 4 days a week or fill it out, and to a point they can get somewhere a little bit with it. They understand it conceptually, but it's a mechanical thing. It's not really absorbed. It's not really in them. It's not that it has to be natural, but it's like it's a forced activity. And in the end, they kind of again,
they're doing it because they think that's what they should do as a human. Like, okay, I need to be healthy. I need to go to the gym. I need to work out. I go do this.
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, but it's not in them to really do it. Or meditation. It's like I go to yoga because that's what I do. I go to the core power class. I do yoga, and it's like and technically some people get really good at it. They even do the thing. They're even not showing up to do the thing. They do the thing, and they're physically having to change or mentally. It's just they're just not. They're not. It's just not. It doesn't become part of the tapestry of who they are.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it.
Ooh,
that's a good way to put it. Yeah, that goes on the coffee table. So yeah, it's not woven into the tapestry of who they are. You're right. It's not. It's about alignment at the end of the day, and alignment looks different for everybody. I was recently married to someone who spent, his idea of oneness maybe is being in the woods and sitting in a deer stand. And that, who am I to judge that experience for him? If that is his way of connecting with oneness, if that's his way of connecting to source, then that's his way of connecting to source. Mine is obviously quite different, but I think that, but really it's not. I can step out, like just this morning, my son and I are laying out on my back porch with our socks off and our feet in the grass, just connecting with the planet, like just absorbing the energy from the planet, and so it's not much different. And we can't judge others on their journey, just like Barbara said, we can't do that either.
No, you can't make someone get to where you are. You can't even shove them a little bit. And no matter where they get and wherever they stumble into, it's like, again, whatever their awareness is to, I think, experience where they're going, it's like, great. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think it's having the self-awareness to not, it's that whole thing about being on the plane where you're supposed to put on your oxygen first and then help others. Or
yes.
Put the life vest on for yourself and then not drown helping others. I think that's kind of, it's difficult, but that's the problem, is that you can watch other people they're struggling, but it's like, hey, make sure you're doing the inventory you need to get to the tapestry that you're weaving, and you don't end up, like Velcroed on someone else's by accident.
Yeah, I make that mistake in relationships.
That's really hard to do. I think when you recognize that your energy is affected just being in the same space as another person, in the same physical space as another person, your energy is affected.
Yeah.
And, by that person. And so I think that we have to be really careful with who we allow in our spaces, who we allow close to us and who we allow in our spaces. And they need to be of like minds and like energy. Otherwise, you're allowing something into your space that is not in alignment with yourself. And then when you start feeling the dissonance, you get anxiety and you get depression and you don't feel right. You don't feel good. You've got to separate yourself from certain energies and it doesn't necessarily mean that other person's energy is bad. If we take bad and good out of the equation, just like Gary said, duality is probably bullshit anyway. So let's take good and bad out of the equation and let's just say it's different. There are different energies that mesh and some energies don't. And when you have energies that don't mesh, you end up finding yourself in a place of you're very 3D. Very 3D.
Yeah. It's like harmony. Like I think like sometimes, harmony with a person.
Yeah.
And other times it's like dissonance, sort of.
Yes. And it's one or the other. I don't think there's an in between.
The instrument just breaks.
and you know what? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to add in. I think one of the subtle things, and I think this is where we all get stuck. It's not just there isn't an in between, but I think there are some energies and some things that you let in, and you don't realize that they're really like a slow dragging anchor. And you don't realize it. You think it's fine. You think you're in the boat. You think you're fine. You don't think there's an anchor, and it's like you don't realize you're dragging. You don't realize that it's bad. I think some of the energies are actually very subtle. If you're not careful, they're not always black and white. They're definitely, you're in a gray area. You're like, oh, this seems like a good time. This seems like it's this is like the direction to go, and it's like, no, but can you pick up on the subtle the subtle friction, the subtle static?
It's the intuition that we feel with our higher selves on the inside yelling at us when we ignore it is what happens.
Yeah.
Like we ignore it. And then I think, Jared, I described to you like what happens, I feel like in the 3D experience. I look at life sort of like this chaotic tornado that just spins around and just is whipping everybody around. And you've got all these 3Ders in it just being whipped around, right? And then you can, every once in a while, you see you might see a silver thread and you grab that thread and you hold on to it because you're just being whipped around and you need some stability. And you grab that thread and you hold on to that thread. And as you climb it, you end up in the center of the storm. And then it's like, whoa, I didn't know it could be this quiet. I didn't know it could be this calm. I didn't know it could be like this, and then and then sometimes you get ripped right back into the storm and you have to find that thread again and you have to pull yourself back into the calm, but it's a conscious thing. It's an intentionality and an effort that we have to we're constantly, I think, like you said, when you wake up, you don't just wake up forever. You wake up and there's still life happening around you. Like we're in the 3D, we're still in these bodies. So you still have to deal with life, and so you kind of get caught back up in it sometimes. And then you got to find that thread and pull yourself back out.
Absolutely. Jared.
Now, you know what?
That was a lot. That was heavy, wasn't it? That was heavy.
Yeah. I got to give you a couple minutes to really process all that because is really
that I'm sorry.
what I'm going through.
No, this is
Ah,
typical. Gary, I know this is a typical back and forth for Gary. So when you said Jared, what did you want to say?
I wanted you to talk. You had to have
Yeah.
me talk.
You
he needs
look,
a minute. He needs a
no,
minute. But
not at
you
all.
understand what I'm saying, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You understand what
Absolutely.
I'm saying. Like, you
Yeah.
just have to,
Right.
you got to look for the thread. You have to find the thread and you have to hold on to that thread. You have to pull yourself back out and you have to have the mental fortitude to do it and know that we are one with source and we do create our own realities and we are in control of ourselves and we can create whatever we want. And so create that silver thread and grab it. If you're living in chaos right now, grab the silver thread because it's there. You just have to look for it. And oftentimes it's gratitude that'll help you find it. Sitting in gratitude will help you find that silver thread. And when you find that thread, you can follow it all the way to the center into the calm. And then it's like, whoa, okay, now I can breathe, and all the other chaos is still going around you, but you're unaffected. You're unaffected by it. It's just noise. It's just static. You're in the center. Everything else is just static.
Center's good.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I'm there
Gary,
now. I'm in the center and I am loving it. Loving the center of the storm.
I am
yeah,
grasping for the thread.
Well,
Gary,
then all we got to do is find it.
yeah.
Jared's my
All we
I
got to
thread.
do is find it.
I
you
want to
what?
grab. I want to grab like Jared's hair, like the wave of his hair, and hold on to it and make it my thread.
Well, he's been using these products that are turning his gray hair back to his natural color. So
Yeah.
I'm
now
All
turning
all
all my
the
he
hair
all,
gray.
yeah, Gary, you could change it back in about like 3-4 days with GR7. And
Nice.
Ellen, they're not even a sponsor. GR7, you should contact us. We would definitely be a sponsor. Or we would definitely like you as a sponsor.
my son today, while we were at the gym, I leaned over and he was like, "Mom, you have gray hair," and I was like, "Shut up, kid. I
You
know,
know
I
what?
do." And I
He
was
has like
like,
four.
this one's from you. This one's from your sister. This is from your other sister. This is from you. This is from her. This is from her. I only have there's only like four of them.
I have more than
So
four.
yeah, well, you know what? Look, if you wanted to, Gary, your natural hair color, this product GR7, you put it in your head, and it would actually it gives you the nutrients. Your hair will literally grow back to its original color.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
but
manifesting the gray. I did the gray on purpose. I knew
okay,
Hey, it's like George
I
Clooney.
knew that the gray hair would be like it would just make me more attractive.
Oh my God, it's where it's at. I'm looking at you right now and I'm thinking that is a very handsome man.
I
Like,
know, right? The gray hair works.
yes, you're
um,
killing it, like crushing it over the
Thank you.
top, crushing it.
all
And
right.
then the closer you get to the mic,
Like this
yes.
or like this.
Oh my
Oh, like
gosh,
that.
stop it.
Or should I talk to Jared?
Oh
Jared, you look so sexy.
my gosh.
Yummy.
I love it.
On that note, Gary, so we do this every Wednesday, right? And you know what? We got to give you the floor for a minute to promote what's been going on for your podcasts and whatever else you got going on. I mean, we got to give you that gratuitous moment here. What's what's
Yeah,
what's
where can
going
we
on?
find you? Where are you
All
at? Where
right.
can we find you? How do we
All right.
contact?
Well, you can find me or contact me at unitymanifest.com.
Okay.
The podcast is Unity Manifest, and it is available on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, everywhere. It was formerly Everything Imaginable, but it changed. Everything became Unity. Imagination became manifestation.
Oh,
Check it out. Unity Manifest Podcast.
That's
you
cool,
just said
Chris.
it. Just stop it. You're doing that on purpose right now. You're doing that for the ladies. Do it. Do it again. Unity Manifest Podcast. Do it.
Unity Manifest Podcast.
Oh my gosh. He is a
Fire.
silver fox. Ladies, Just letting you know, if you're not watching live, you should be.
You know, Kristi, you and I have a couple things to say, but Gary, you want to hang around for a couple minutes after our show?
Yeah, I'll hang around.
All right. Well, maybe we'll take you off stage then, and Kristi and I are going to wrap up, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
All right. I'm going to go make some tea while you're doing
All
that.
right. See you in a minute. All right. That was fun.
Gotta love him. He's amazing. Also, ladies, seriously, a silver fox. So if you weren't on live and you couldn't see him, you need to look. Okay, just look at the podcast.
Yeah.
Because
Gary
the
is quite
voice matches the face and the silver hair and all the things. He's got it going on.
Yeah, and he's pretty brilliant, and he's got lots to talk about, and he's got a lot to listen. He's a good listener too, so it's not just one-sided.
Oh man, what a brilliant mind.
Yeah, and a lot of unique life experience, and that was a really good time.
That was so much fun. So we can find him at Manifest Unity or Unity Manifest. I can't remember which one it was.
Unity Manifest.
We'll have it on. We'll have his link on the website so you can find him. And then don't forget, we have an expedition coming up in May to Belize. All that information will be on the website. Some of it's on the website. We're still working on wrapping up a few minor details, and we'll throw those on over the weekend, and then we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And the other stuff coming up, and I have no idea what happened for everyone tonight, but it's every Wednesday. It's at 8 o'clock. I apologize for whatever happened with our computing, but it was fixed, and we are live on our site. But you can find us on Not Aliens, but eventually you will find us at ArchaeoX on all the social medias. So look forward to seeing you there. But please come here. We love your support at archaeox.com.
Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you.